You're watching Global Trade This Week with Pete Mento and Doug Draper.
Hello, everyone. I'm Pete Mento, and with me is my good friend, Doug Draper. That's right. The adults are back home. So, Keenan, thank you for doing such a great job last week. Doug, thank you for keeping him on the straight and narrow. I was away. I was in Chicago at a sales call. I could not make a regularly scheduled show. Doug, mea culpa, mea maxima culpa. I'm so very sorry for that, friend.
No,
but you guys did a great job.
We made it through. Keenan crushed it. Let's
not get carried away. The problem with these millennials and Gen Zs and Zoomer-roomers or whatever they are, they've just had way too much encouragement their whole lives. I don't think he needs any more encouragement.
Mm-hmm.
No.
Yeah.
It was satisfactory, okay? It was satisfactory. Let's just leave it at that.
All right.
Some people have a place behind the scenes for a reason, Doug.
Mm-hmm. Yes. And he's actually behind the scenes in the great town of Breckenridge, Colorado, as he's watching the snowfall right now. So that is, yes, snow.
Humbug.
Yes. Well, pretty soon we'll both be in the snow. Me, Keenan, not you. So.
No, I'll be in Virginia, where if it snows, everyone has a heart attack. So yeah, there won't be any snow for me, pal.
Yeah, cool, good. All right. Well, this is the Thanksgiving edition. So if it's not completely obvious, we'll probably have a little Thanksgiving chatter at halftime. So I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah, buddy. Well, listen, I kicked it off, which means it's your turn to go first this week. So what do you and Troy got for us?
All right, man. I'm going to drop the gauntlet. Sounds very confrontational. So I'm going to do a moonshot here and tell everybody that this holiday shopping season is going to lift spirits for first quarter of 2024. And here's what why I'm saying that. So there was some, and I'll make a caveat. I think Adobe was the or Wired. Can't remember where I saw that this morning when I was reading about this. So like, where do these numbers come from? So in October 22, that month, there was $72 billion of e-commerce spend. And in October of 23, there was $76 billion of e-commerce spend. They're expecting that trend to continue in November and into December. Mobile, which is not surprising, is up 10%. There's price decreases of 6% on average from consumer goods to apparel, household appliances and things of that nature. And inventories that were exploded post-COVID because forecasting was just out of whack with the consumer buying habits. Those are starting to mellow because of third Prime Days that kicked off in, I think, was that in October or November? When was the recent Prime Days?
October.
Yeah. So October, Prime Days, you shoot it up. That's part of the reason that $4 billion spend. So my point here, Pete, is that even though there's macroeconomics issues that are going on, everybody talks about what the Fed's going to do on the interest rate, how stable is the economy, yada, 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 which are very important. If you look at what consumers are doing, they're gobbling up the inventory as retailers present it to themselves or present it to them. And that's starting to balance out inventories. I think we're going to see a pretty stable consumer buying season for the holidays. And I think Q4 is going to roll some positive vibes into the first part of 2024 that will impact the macroeconomics that drives the headline news day in and day out. So strategic, deliberate are a couple of words that I would use in how consumers are buying in this quarter. And I think that's going to speak well. I think there's going to be positive news about what consumers are doing, and that positive news is going to come in first quarter, specifically at the end of January. I think you have a Holocaust expected in February, so I think we're going to have some good news before that. But that's my take. It's going to be a good holiday season, and that's going to reflect positively in Q1, which is going to help the narrative of our macroeconomic uncertainty.
I love it when you talk about economics, Doug. It makes me feel like
I touch about that much of it. I love it.
No, it makes me feel like my entire career was not for nothing.
Yeah.
So thank you for that.
Yeah.
One of the first things I do whenever I see prognostications about growth is I look at the numbers based on last year and the year before that. Are they adjusted for inflation? So I don't know if the study you looked at was adjusted for inflation. And when adjusted for inflation, it's still generally pretty good. Not great, but right now our expectations are so low that we don't really need some blockbuster quarter to really get people excited. What we just need to see is some degree of growth, mainline growth. And when you're talking about an expectation of 3 to 5%, okay, when a typical holiday growth would have been like an 8%, 3 to 5%, I think we're all going to be doing, cartwheels down at the Fed if we can pull something like that off. So I agree with you. I think that we're going to have a pretty good holiday season. And the reason for that is going to be, like you said, clearing of inventories. People are all employed. Not all. A lot of America is currently employed. And there is a degree of exuberance. I'm not going to call it irrational, but exuberance for people's current state in life. I think that it would be poorly founded to look at the holiday seasonal sales as a positive indicator of current American economic health when there are so many underlying critical factors that are really playing against us. Everything from commercial real estate to the orders being down so preposterously coming out of China, American saving habits, and let's not even begin to start with debt and where Americans are with debt. So will Americans go out and spend a bunch of money they don't have for Christmas? Hell yeah. Yeah, that's the American way. Do I think it's going to be as great as the year before or the year before that? No, I do not. But again, with expectations being low, Doug, it's not hard to hit that bar, pal.
Yeah. Well, we usually agree with each other. And I think that I would disagree. You're the economics whiz, and I certainly am not. So maybe my comments and things are a little bit naive. But Retail Drive, I was looking to make sure people could reference this. Retail Drive, which is a company focused on the retail segment, and then Adobe Analytics and Digital Services, where those statistics came from. So I was looking just now. There is no reference to adjusted for inflation. So that could be easily the reason for the $4 billion adjustment. But I still think shit's going to get balanced out. People are going to buy, and it's going to be a good trend going into 2024. And I like it.
Well, it could be the last tiny little scoop, that last little scoop of ice cream you get before you got to throw the container away. Mm-hmm. That's probably it, Doug.
Good. Yeah. Sometimes that scoop is good and sometimes it's bad.
Yeah. So, well, enjoy your last scoop, kids.
Yes. All right, man. I like both of your topics. One of them I love. So you pick whichever one you want to go first, but ball's in your court.
Well, overnight we had some not unexpected news of a new president being elected in Argentina. I never say his last name right, but Javier Milei, I think is how you say his last name.
That's what we came up with. Yeah.
He is regularly referred to as the Whig. He's also called the Lion, but they call him the Whig because he has some serious hair. As Doug was saying, he's before we started today, he's got mutton chops. It's like a modern day sort of Elvis looking kind of a cat. He is very ostentatious, extremely theatrical. He's also an economist. He's an economist. The man is a college professor. He's an economist. And he looks at the outrageous, rampant inflation happening in Argentina, looks at a 40% poverty rate, which is incredible if you think about it, and says we can do better as a nation. And on a populist wave of really conservative, super conservative values of cutting government spending, eradicating grift, getting rid of a lot of the corruption that he sees in every single level of their government. He believes that it wouldn't take very long for the nation of Argentina to right-size itself. One of the first things that he intends to do is to move Argentina off of its current currency into the U.S. dollar. This has gotten some, pockets of interest in the news today. It's one of the first articles that will come up when you read about his platform. And why would he do that? He's doing it in a hopes that as the American currency begins to deflate, as America's economy begins to flatten out, probably get a little bit more predictable, it will allow for more predictable Argentine economy as well, and a more predictable Argentine currency. Many countries have done this in the past, not the least of which, and a very interesting success story, being Costa Rica, who also did the exact same thing at the exact right time and reaped incredible benefits. Argentina as a nation has always had so much potential, but has never quite made it from the global standpoint that people thought that it should. It has a very large workforce. It's set up very well for logistics and has tremendous individual raw resources. They're also a consumption economy. So in his hopes, in his dreams, this will be step one of trying to right-size the economy while also reaching out to multiple nations to look for more liberalized trade. He's not just saying it'll be with the United States and with Western Europe. No, he's talking about China. He's talking about Mexico and the rest of Latin America. So there's a lot of exuberance. There's a lot of excitement. But anytime I hear about a South American leader deciding to shake up corruption, I think it's only a matter of time before, you might have an untimely end due to acute lead poisoning to the brain.
I had not even thought of that, Pete, when we were chatting before the show here about that first of all, the guy is a comic highlight reel, right? Oh, yeah. I mean, if you go online and just look, there's like a montage of him with a chainsaw. He dresses up and does performances and does parody songs about the economy. I think you mentioned he was in front of a chalkboard just ripping off,
different agencies.
Different agencies and within the organization. And that will drive interest and it'll drive the voters. We get the voters excited, right? But now that he's in, he's not dealing with voters anymore. He's dealing with the old guard, and we'll see how much impact he can make. I don't know. I mean, he's gregarious. He's a little bit off center. So we'll see. But I think you have a comment. We'll see how much of his banter and antics will go beyond just getting elected. And I hope that that doesn't happen, what you said in the end there, but there could be a chance where people just don't put up with it that are really now involved with controlling his comments and destinies and policies. So it'll be interesting.
People are already comparing him to Trump, which I don't think is a fair comparison. Yes, he is definitely entertaining. He says outrageous things, and he's trying to single-handedly change the direction, the entire course of a whole economy. But as you point out, Doug, governments are not run by one person anymore. And he's going to run up against other people with other ideas and other North Stars that he's going to come up against, like, human resource, human caring about people and trying to get things done for people. And when you have a 40% poverty rate, the idea of getting rid of the Department of Education, which he called the Department of Indoctrination, you're a good nation starts with a well-educated populace. I don't know. We'll see where this guy goes with all of it. But as somebody who looks at his tax bill and just wants to light something on fire, I can see where he probably got a lot of folks excited about him.
Yeah.
We'll watch this one closely here at Global Trade this week.
Absolutely. And that shifts us gears into our halftime, brought to you by Cap Logistics. They have Keenan up in Breckenridge, the mountains, enjoying things today. So caplogistics.com for your logistics and transportation needs. Check them out. And now, as I said, this is the Thanksgiving edition, so we'll kind of jump into it a little bit. So, Pete, you had some good topics to roll on this one, so I'll let you go first.
Yeah, I had to get an MRI today on my leg. I've had some problems with a quad strain for a while now, and I went to get my MRI today, and my MRI technician, just trying to make banter, trying to calm this big old man down, was like, "Hey, got any big plans for Thanksgiving?" And he's trying to talk to me, and I was like, "Yeah, Virginia, I'm just talking." And he's like, "Oh, I'm really looking forward to getting together with my family, big French Canadian family." I'm like, "God, would you shut up and take pictures of my leg?" And I hold Thanksgiving very, very close to my heart because I love the idea, and I take it at its core of being thankful for my family, thankful for my ability to care for my family, my friends, being very thankful for the nation that I live in. But man, there's a lot of Thanksgiving stuff to me that's like things on the table that my family's white trash stuff that we ate that no one else ate, like ambrosia salad, which is basically
Love it.
Canned fruit with Cool Whip and coconuts and chocolate chips in it. How can you call it a salad, right? And being Texan, there's really very rarely a meal that doesn't involve beef. So yeah, we'd have turkey, but we'd also have a prime rib on my table. And depending on what part of the family we were with, it was either bone dry because they were very Southern Baptist, or it was just an absolutely alcohol fueled shit show. It was one way or the other. I enjoyed the shit shows, frankly. But yeah,
Really?
yeah, really, huh? I'm excited for Thanksgiving. I don't know, Doug. So what are you thankful for this year?
Nice. Well, first of all, when your kids leave and I'm on the end of that, you're on the beginning of it. It's always nice to have them come home. So I'm thankful for the family. As cliche as that definitely sounds, when they're not around and they come back, you kind of, you really miss them. You don't know what it's gone. You don't know what you got till it's gone, kind of thing. So I'm looking forward to that. And this will be the last Thanksgiving that we have in the house that we raised our family in. My daughter was born, and she was like 6 months old when we moved in. And Pete, I'll tell everybody, but we're moving, and we were able to keep our house through the end of the year. So this is the last Thanksgiving, then there'll be the last Christmas for our family. So that's kind of special as well. But yeah, I was in Lawrence, this past weekend visiting my daughter. And I went to the KU K-State football game. Unfortunately, Kansas did not win, but saw tons of friends, and it was awesome. And the big thing with college kids now is Friendsgiving. There were 2 back-to-back Friendsgiving parties that my daughter was going to. So I don't remember Friendsgiving when I was growing up. It was just kind of like what you said, debauchery at the with the wine at dinner. But that's a big thing now, and maybe that's been around for a while. I just didn't know about it, but Friendsgiving is a hot button at the University of Kansas with 21-year-old girls.
I think it's dumb. I'm going to put Friendsgiving in the same category as pumpkin spice everything. And, it's sweater weather. Let's put on our Uggs. Just shut up. Shut up. Please shut up about all of it. You know what Friendsgiving was for me, Doug? It was the night before Thanksgiving. What? When all my buddies and I would get together at the local watering hole and get polluted. That's what Friendsgiving was. It was the night before when we would meet at a bar because we hadn't seen each other in forever, and we would get looped and then wake up the next morning and go to the football game to watch our high school play rival Central. Shout out to the Trinity Pioneers who won the state championship this year. Rock on. But the next morning we'd wake up hungover and spend it with our family. You have to have another holiday because you've got to have a day with you and all your friends. Be thankful. It's called a dinner party. Shut up. All right. Order your pizzas and have your luau or whatever it is you do for your Friendsgiving. Grow up. Okay. Have a dinner party. Ask your friends to come over. Have genteel conversation. Put on some jazz. I don't know. Smoke a little devil's cabbage and act like adults for the afternoon Friendsgiving. It's just so contrived. It's like every we got to create all these little safe spaces for all these kids today. God, grow up. And that's coming from a guy with his hat on backwards. Okay, grow up.
I love it. Well, we'll have to talk next week about what actually transpired at each one of the dinner tables here in a couple of days. So that's good.
I'm sure that my leftist slightly Marxist daughter will probably upset everyone at Thanksgiving. I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah. Man. All right, buddy. I'm going to jump into my second topic, and we'll get this party wound down. So, excuse me. So Shein, right? It's the what do you call it? The fast casual. I can't think of. Give me the right word there. I'm trying to think of
casual.
Quick commerce.
Casual e-commerce company. Yeah, they're the juggernaut of inexpensive. Yeah.
This thing's going down a wormhole already. I can't even think of the topic, what I'm talking about, but the quick commerce, right? Quick retail. So anyway, they're Shein's supply chain. Not only are there methods of how they just kick out clothes based on trends and influencers within days and get them overseas. There's been a lot of draw with some of their supply chain and not necessarily transportation supply chain, but apparently there was a couple of influencers that got some behind the scenes look at some of the factories and how they mass produce their clothing and their items. And they were able to walk in and look at some factory conditions, And the end result was the influencers painted a picture of favorable compliments, right? So I pulled a quote that I'm going to read here. So one of the influencers said, "I expected the facility to be so filled with people just slaving away, but I was actually pleasantly surprised that most of these things were robotic. Honestly, everyone was just working normal, like chill, sitting down. They weren't even sweating." That's the quote. So if you can't just smoke and mirror that thing with these influencers, it's unbelievable. I think that there's issues there. I think as you pull the onion back with the labor force they're pulling and having a pretty picture and bringing in a young influencer and showing them what they want to show is not a direct reflection of what's going on there. So unfortunately, I think that industry is guilty until proven innocent, but it's Chinese driven factories, and where there's smoke, there's sometimes fire. But I think that we'll see more and more of the industry, not necessarily specific to Shein, really be exposed for some practices that are just don't align with the conditions that the younger generation wants, which is it's I don't know, the bigger analysis on the fast fashion. That's what the word I was looking for, fast fashion. The disposable nature of the whole process, it's counter to in the environment, sustainability, and that kind of goes against the mantra of some of the younger consumers. So it's an interesting dynamic that will continue to play out. But as of right now, there's 8 influencers out there that think the factories are just perfect and there's no issues whatsoever.
And I'm sure that all those influencers have a wonderful Friendsgiving. They probably have a couple hundred people over for them. This company, unfortunately, was the target of a lot of customs enforcement recently, where they allegedly, we have to say that off the bat here, allegedly were found to have cotton that had been produced in the Uyghur Nation. And because of the way that these goods were coming into the country through the specific, Chapter 86 de minimis program with customs, they were not being inspected in a way that would be as, when you bring stuff in under a manifest entry, only a small number of a large multiple number of e-commerce shipments are actually probably going to be inspected. So as customs has gotten much, much better at reviewing goods as they come in, they've been using genetic testing on cotton to determine where stuff comes from. And now Shein finds themselves wrapped up in a very political, ugly argument about the use of forced labor in that particular region. I don't think that there's a lot of good news in this for them. Right now, Congress is looking for every possible way to sanction companies that are doing this type of work. It's only going to get their stuff inspected more. And in fast fashion, you want it fast. If it's being inspected more, if the stuff is being, held up for who knows, months at a time, I think that ultimately it's going to slow down their ability to make their customers happy by getting the crap they want cheap, quickly, and inexpensively. So I'm not sold on the idea that the party's just going to keep raging on this stuff, Doug. And you can send as many influencers on your tickety talk as you want. Customs has got technology, and they're 100% going to get their foot in the door on this.
Yeah. It could be the end of the fast fashion industry that was.
I just want to keep saying it.
Yeah, good point. All right, man, bring us home. What's your second topic for today?
Yeah, doom and gloom for our final topic, unfortunately.
Shocker.
Houthi helicopter raid on civilian ships. So what we're seeing, unfortunately, right now happening in the Middle East region is terrorist activity by what can best be described as non-nation states, rogue nation enforcement agencies attacking legitimate commercial vessels. And in doing so, disrupting maritime traffic. The United States has really pulled back on their willingness to protect the seaways, because what they've realized is they're mostly protecting Chinese financial interest. And we have a whole portion of the world in that Suez Canal region that is so important, so vital to American energy concerns, a lot of aid as well. Let's not stop to mention that. And for decades, we have kept a strong arm in that part of the world. And it's a terrifying place to have maritime operations with so much danger all around it. This news report did not get the attention that it deserves. If you continue to see disruption of maritime trade through the Suez Canal, to be able to get energy safely from where it is to where it needs to be, it would add months, literally months, to the supply chain of energy. And in doing so, would also disrupt supply chains just from its very core. Doug, this is a big problem. I think that they understand it is. I mean, there's been so many war games that have been done about this, so much insight that's been put on it by the U.S. Navy and by our allied navies. This is a very big problem. I think you're going to see more and more of it over the next couple of weeks until something is done about what's going on in the Middle East.
Yeah. Well, when I saw this topic, the first thing I thought about was what we spoke about last week or 2 weeks ago when you were on, that with the Panama Canal and the situation down there with the water level and U.S. Grain exports are going through the Suez Canal. So not only is there a problem with fuel and the uncertainty in what we're seeing actually starting to happen, now we're sending ships to that same region full of food. And it just, food, fuel going into the beast of the belly, it just is ripe. I mean, I'm just a dude from, I'm just a kid from Kansas. And if I can see that in the potential problems that it's just laying out, I don't understand why we would do that. I mean, it's financial related, right? You got to sell the grain, you got to move it. You can't go through your normal port because of delays. Let's go, boys. Let's just jam it through the Suez Canal. Well, all of a sudden there's bombings and everything with the with fuel. I could see it become pretty dire pretty quick if they decide to do the same thing with the food supply chain that they're doing with the fuel.
And wait till insurance companies get a hold of this, Doug.
Oh,
it continues to escalate. It's only going to get worse, pal.
Yeah. All right. Well, that wraps it up for this edition of Global Trade This Week. Before we sign off, I wanted to make a comment. Pete, we're going someplace on December 5th and 6th. Tell me about that.
We're going to Boca Raton, buddy.
Yes.
Pete and Doug take Boca for the TAPA conference. We've been invited to do the show live at TAPA, and we will. I'm very excited to record our show for the good people at TAPA. We'll be discussing whatever the latest exciting topics of international trade are. I imagine we'll take questions as well, and doing it in front of a live audience. So very excited to do that. Very thankful to the good people at TAPA for inviting us, and hopefully you'll be able to be there to join us. So looking forward to seeing folks there.
Absolutely. So we got, I think, at least one more episode before that happens. So until then, I want to thank everybody for listening. And if you have any comments, criticisms about the show, jump on LinkedIn and all the different. What's that?
Any criticisms, you can keep them to yourself.
There you go. Yeah. Just do a thumbs up and like the episodes and keep your comments to yourself. I like that. So, yeah. All right. Till next time, Pete, we'll catch you next week. Have a wonderful Thanksgiving. I'll be interested to see how it plays out on the next edition of Global Trade This Week. See you, buddy.
Thanks, everybody. See you. Bye.